All right, we're ready to go here.
How are you? Good.
Well, good morning. Good to see all of you here this morning. This is a meeting of the House Insurance Committee during special session. We have a good program this morning with some good information, I think, that will be beneficial for us as we look forward to the general session. There have been several things that have been brought to me over the course of the interim, and just thought it might be helpful for you to hear from about some of the issues that we might be dealing with. Before we get started, I would just like to call on Representative Taylor, she would, to open us with a word of prayer.
Shirley, please bow your head. Good morning, Father. Thank you for the day you've given us and for the opportunity to serve the people of Georgia. We ask that you give us wisdom and discernment as we do the work of this state and of the people. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. One of the things that, or one of the entities that we deal with quite frequently in the House Insurance Committee is the Insurance Commissioner's Office. I've asked Commissioner King to be with us today, and he's graciously agreed to do that. We're going to hear some comments from him to begin with, but he also has his staff with him, and I believe they're going to share some legislative priorities and some things that are of concern to them as we look forward to the coming session in January. So Commissioner King, if you would please go to the podium. Let's see, podium microphone.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to come before you all this morning. Chairman Lumsden, I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak and bring my team with you so they can answer any of the hard questions that you all may have this morning. Now, Chairman Lumsden asked me to provide this committee with a brief update of our agency and a quick overview of potential legislative priorities for next session. As Georgia's Insurance Commissioner, I want to give you the bottom line up front. My number one priority is protecting Georgia consumers. In every aspect of our agency, from consumer services to special fraud to safety fire, we are committed to serving the people of Georgia. I want to start this morning by saying how proud I am of our team. Working, we never close our doors. We continue operating through the middle of the COVID pandemic. I'm really proud of our team. They've really risen to the challenge. I had to make some operational changes as we temporarily moved many of our employees from work from home status. But we didn't miss a beat, and we continue serving Georgians. This is largely thanks to the funds provided by the legislature that allowed us to modernize out-of-date manual processes and move many of our agency's functions online. This includes building plan submittals, permits, applications, payments, just to name a few. We're estimating that our agency will save over $40,000 a year. That's over $3,300 a month just on postage by moving many of our functions online. We immediately reinvesting those savings into putting more employees in the field to serve Georgia consumers. We also gradually increased our staff in every part of our agency since taking office. One such area is consumer services, who are the real unsung heroes of our agency. These employees work hard every day, answering insurance questions and helping resolve disputes between insurers, agents, and policyholders. I'm sure many of y'all have sent constituents to our office who are having issues getting a claim paid, a medical procedure covered, or simply getting a response from an insurance company. These are the folks who have been working these cases. The consumer services team are the folks who directly work these cases and reach out to insurance companies on behalf of your constituents. In 2021, so far, our team has recovered over $14 million for consumers. That number is over 26 million since we took office in 2019. These folks closed over 20,000 cases in that time, with only 11 analysts working these. As an example of the kind of work we do, last week we had a legislator reach out to us regarding a constituent who couldn't get an insurance company to cover a procedure to remove a possibly cancerous cyst. We contacted the insurance company on her behalf, and within days, this procedure was not only approved, but the doctor was able to perform it at the hospital that would normally be out of network. This one case alone saved this family over $30,000 in possible medical bills. If your constituents have any kind of insurance issue, please get with Director of Legislative Affairs, Weston Burleson, and he will make sure Consumer Services creates and assigns a case. Weston is here with me this morning, and he'll pass on his contact information. So please don't let him get out of here without getting his business card. We also put a lot of focus on our special fraud unit. This unit investigates illegal insurance activities perpetrated by companies, agents, and individuals. Georgia's #1 in the country for insurance fraud, and that's a sad fact. We're behind Florida, but these crimes cost Georgia families between $400 and $700 in higher premiums every year. When I took over special fraud, it was in incredibly rough shape. We had agents that couldn't even testify in court because of previous misconduct. I immediately hired a retired Cobb County Police Captain, Terry Blackmer, and she's gone to work revamping the division by hiring new, ethical, and professional investigators. We now have investigators stationed across the state, working directly in communities where they serve, and they help us crack down on insurance fraud. Thanks to this committee, we passed tougher public adjuster laws this past session, and it went into effect on July 1st of this year. These new authorities allow our office to go after bad actors in that industry who are taking advantage of Georgians while they're most vulnerable. In fact, thanks to this law, we're in the process of revoking several public adjusters' licenses by bringing potential criminal charges against them as well. Our special fraud team works an average of 8,000 complaints every year, from everything from disability insurance fraud to a recent case where $500,000 was stolen from 3 separate victims by an insurance agent. We're also currently pursuing a case against a Florida-based tree removal company that victimized the community after the tornadoes in Coweta and Newton in March of this year. Our safety fire side, we've also made several improvements thanks to the support of Governor Kemp and the legislature. We have tripled the number of K-9 units from 2 to 6, and with a 7th on its way. These K-9 teams help identify accelerants, allowing them to determine the cause of a fire much quicker than a human investigator waiting for a lab result. With these additional K-9s, we can now respond to a request of assistance anywhere within our great state within 90 minutes. In the past, response time could take sometimes up to a day or more, which of course would render any investigative findings on a suspicious fire scene because the scene was cold. In the past response, we're also working to beefing up our safety fire inspectors program, adding 10 new positions in our latest budget requests. This new staff will help us improve inspections in everything from elevators to escalators to boilers to amusement parks. We also recently launched a new software that will allow us to better track inspections and find areas where we could increase our focus. Unfortunately, this aspect of our agency has been neglected by several former commissioners. Software installed under the previous administrations was originally meant for licensing and couldn't even give us an accurate picture of where items were overdue for inspections. When we took over back in 2019, we quickly learned how understaffed and underfunded this division was. This is a significant impact on our state, both for the safety of our citizens and our economic development. Low staffing levels and the system where building plans had to be hand-delivered meant significant delays from our office, which in turn slowed out any new development in your local communities. We are currently in talks with budget writers, both in the House and in the Senate, to add as many as 23 more positions to the safety fire division. This includes 6 new elevator inspectors, which would increase our staff to 33. Their largest has been in decades. As we get closer to the 2022 session, we're looking for new ways, for new legislation to introduce, as we're hoping that this committee's for your support. We've been meeting with leaders from both the House and the Senate, along with the governor's office, to look for ways to bring down car insurance and truck insurance rates. We've been hearing directly from the trucking industry how hard it is for them to find insurance, first of all, but then when they do find it, how expensive those rates are. These expenses are passed on to all of us through higher costs on the goods that they transport. And finally, I have our staff digging through our agency's entire code section to look for outdated laws that need to be removed from the books. These laws are a burden both on the industry and on our agency that exist simply because they've been around for years. Now, I will promise you this. Our goal for any legislation that we bring to y'all is to continue making Georgia the best place in the United States to live, work, and raise a family. I said in the beginning, I see myself as my agencies and myself as my first mission is to be a consumer advocate. And I'm here today because I want to continue working with you all to make sure that we can do everything we can to protect Georgia consumers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members, for allowing me to come and chat with you all this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner King. I believe you have your staff with you. Weston, do you guys want to come and talk to us a little bit about those legislative priorities? 27, do I have a quick question? Sure. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, for being here with us. The thing that rings in my ear that you said was fraud. What are we doing to get Georgia from being the leader in that area?
Ma'am, our strategy has been pretty straightforward. In the past, first of all, we had an agency that was not capable of successfully bringing, because insurance fraud cases are hard cases to bring to a grand jury. And so first of all, we've hired now competent agents, law enforcement agents. They're competent and can bring successful, and also getting them out of Atlanta and getting them into your communities so they can establish that relationship with the district attorney's office, with the sheriffs, with police chiefs, so we can bring people, not all fraud is committed here in Atlanta. And so we're pushing and using my relationship with police chiefs and sheriffs, because my previous job, and they're allowing us now to sit in their police stations or their sheriff stations so we can talk to victims directly and not spending half a day traveling across Georgia, charging mileage to the state. So the location, first of all, hiring the right people and putting them in the right places across Georgia. And we already started to make, and clearly this is the balloon theory. When we start putting pressure, then we'll go somewhere else. When Florida started putting pressure, a lot of these elements started coming into our state. We have to create that pressure to either bring them, into a courtroom and try them, or have them moved somewhere else. And so that's our strategy, man.
Okay.
But it starts with people.
Very good. I think we have a question online. Representative Cannon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. I wanted to thank you for the information that you provided about helping the woman in need with the cysts. There have been continuous issues with the issue of uterine fibroids over the years and some of those procedures not being covered. So I do look forward to speaking with Weston to talk about those issues as well. But I did want to ask about one very specific incident that took place in District 58 as it relates to an elevator malfunction. I know that it went pretty forward to the media, but I'm just concerned about if there was an out-of-date inspection or the inspection was current. It was a college student, a football player. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, incredibly tragic case. And there's a number of factors, and we'll be happy to give you a more detailed briefing, but it's a number of factors. And obviously we're still engaged with the owner of the building to bring a number of violations that we found, and we've issued a number of citations. So we're working within our authorities to be able to bring a change in behavior on the building owner. But that's why part of my briefing, ma'am, we talked about updating our software so we can track these elevators that have been out of inspection. So it's a number of factors. There's no one cause. There's a number of not only technical causes, but also compliance from the building owner. And we'd be happy to provide you with more detailed briefing if you wish.
Thank
All
you.
right. We have a number of presenters today. I'm going to allow one more question to the commissioner, and then we need to get on to the rest of the program. Number 11 was next, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the commissioner, I'm State Representative Bruce Williamson. I represent Walton County. And I apologize. I walked in a minute late. You were bragging about your staff, which I fully intended to do. I just was going back through my emails. I've reached out to your department 4 times over the last couple of years. And every time I've had immediate responses. My constituents have had the questions answered. Don't always get the answer they're looking for, but some things just aren't going to happen. They're just not covered. But just got to brag on the staff. This is responsiveness and successful conclusions that I was not experiencing in prior administrations. So thank you for the good work your team is doing.
Well, thank you, sir. It has been our first priority on as we rebuild and refocus our agency after taking over. As consumer services is our largest touch point with Georgia consumers. And so that's where we've put our biggest effort in staffing and talent. It's an incredible individuals. They did not miss a step in the middle of COVID. We just, thanks to y'all support and getting the technology, we were able to move all these functions to work from home. And this team has been incredible. I'm incredibly proud of Joanne Oney and her team.
All right. One more. I think Weston has indicated that they're not extending a long presentation. So one more question. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, for being here. Matthew Wilson.
Yes.
And I want to let you know, I walked in late during your presentation, but I was listening on Zoom. So I apologize. The connector was shut down. But I want to take a moment to thank you publicly for your service to our state and country over the last year through your deployments. Appreciate that. Want to ask you 2 things. One thing, of course, we're preparing for our January regular session. And one of the issues that has come out that we've had bipartisan cooperation on already has been a focus on mental health. And Georgia has been a state that has lacked strong enforcement on mental health parity. And so I want to ask what your office is doing or preparing, and I'm sure Weston will speak to this too, but what will you be asking us to do in terms of mental health parity?
Thank you very much for your question, sir, because this has been an area that's been, as a former police chief and as a former Atlanta policeman, really focus on a great deal of need that our state has. And I will tell you, if you bring a sheriff, if you bring a police chief here, they will tell you how important it is. The key is having a thoughtful conversation, not only with this committee, but obviously with the insurance industry to make sure that we bring those capabilities. There's a lot of capacity here in Metro Atlanta. Of course, there's greater need in the metro areas. I'll tell you, we got to pay attention also what's going on in rural Georgia. Because I will tell you, probably, if you talk to any chief of police or any sheriff, they will tell you that a lot of these encounters are involving law enforcement officers, which is in our jails are the worst place to do mental health. So it's something that I'm very passionate that I want to come up with a good, thoughtful, and sustainable solution. But working obviously with the industry, but I see the need. I think the same way that you do, sir.
Thank you for that. And I welcome you to join me in calling for full Medicaid expansion. That'd be a perfect solution.
Good try, sir.
I'll keep trying.
I don't blame you.
I appreciate you responding to Representative Cannon's question about the tragic case of Jamarcus McFarland that happened just a few blocks away from here. And you mentioned updating the software so that the department will be able to track inspections that are out of date. Can you talk more about what policy or procedures are being put in place once you've got the software? Then what happens?
Well, we'll be able to first of all, as you know, we knew that this was an incredible challenge for our agency from the, this area of our agency had been neglected by many commissioners in the past. And clearly being able to address that challenge, of course, is an incredible tragedy. I mean, this young man should not have lost his life trying to get out of an elevator. I mean, my heart goes out to their family. They will never be made whole. I mean, it's a tragedy. I'm having a real challenge. And then this is one of the things that we're exploring, is looking at what authorities our office has to compel the owner of the building to do their job. Not only did we find issues with the elevator and the maintenance and inspections elevator, but the boilers and the other potential issue. And of course, we've shut down we shut down many of the boilers and the elevators. And we have some challenges with the owner of the building going around our inspections. And so we're increasing the pain because within our capabilities and within our authorities. And it's obviously be something that I'll be very happy to talk with this committee about getting some additional authorities so we can compel individuals that own a building, that have a responsibility to their tenants. And my God, people deserve to be able to, in a 10-story building, need to be able to have a functioning elevator, a safe elevator, but also hot water. My God, I mean, I spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan when they had hot water there. I mean, this is Atlanta, Georgia. It's inexcusable. And so I'm very passionate about it. And this tragedy ought to compel all of us to figure out on solutions to force folks that are going to be engaged in this industry and business to have people be able to live with hot water and then running a safe elevator. So thank you very much for highlighting that, because we need this committee's help.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner King. We certainly want to do our due diligence and be part of the solution. So we will look forward to further conversations with you and your team as we move into the next legislative session to see if there are things that we can actually do that will help you be able to deliver the services that your office is required and capable of delivering. So thank you very much for being here. Weston, if you would just come and introduce your team at least, and sort of give us just a quick overview of some of the things that you might be looking at this coming session.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Weston Burleson I'm the Director of Communications and Legislative Affairs for the agency. We have Greg Conley, who's our Executive Counsel here, Martin Sullivan, our Chief of Staff, and Steve Manders is our Deputy Commissioner for Insurance Regulation. You will see a lot of Steve when I get very technical questions about insurance, detailed policy. Steve's the guy, his teams, they've been at it for a long time and they know everything there is to know about insurance. I can speak a little more to Representative Wilson, question about mental health issues. We've actually met with a number of advocacy groups that I'm sure that you've been communicating with as well. Our agency would be able in a data call to potentially request some additional information from insurance companies on mental health. We actually have that existing authority whenever we do similar data calls on all sorts of items. I think there's also an effort to maybe fund a permanent position at the agency that would be able to analyze that data and really look at the data year over year and make decisions about ways to move forward. And we would absolutely be happy with that funding for that position. And there'd be a lot of work we could get done with that. And so I know there's several different groups that have made that a legislative priority, and we would be in support of their efforts on that. We're also looking at a few other items in the code, particularly around safety items. There was the accident up in Gainesville last year that cost the life of, I think, 6 poultry workers. And as we were investigating that issue, it turns out it was not, the accident was not the result of anything we have authority over, but as we were looking into that company, we found some other issues with some of their boilers. And as we attempted to cite them for that, they quoted an obscure code section to avoid paying those fees, which we got with our staff on. And that's something we want to do legislatively, is close that loophole. They ended up paying the citations we asked them to because we were able to put some more pressure on them in other areas. But there is definitely some language there, outdated language in the code that we think we'll be able to clean up. Touch a little more to on the elevator inspections. We spent $400,000 on that new software. We've been working that for over a year. It went live in January 1st of this year, and the accident happened just a few days after. It was just very tragic timing. The original system was only meant for licensing. It was not dynamic. So they basically, when we inherited inspections from the Department of Labor, we had, I say we, this was a couple of administrations ago, there was an IT person who had previously worked for the Secretary of State, and he imported over one of their systems that was not meant for inspections. And they basically, with some duct tape and some Band-Aids, they kept that system going for a few years. And that was something we learned right away that was an issue. And we've been working hard to fix that. Now that we'll know right now, where the issues are, where the gaps are, what elevators are past due, we'll be able to adjust our resources there. And again, with the staffing levels, we've been able to get, thanks to your support and the governor's support, we'll really be able to prioritize those issues. Otherwise, legislatively, we met with Chairman Lumsden yesterday. We are looking at a few areas of the code that we think could be improved, to particularly around insurance rates, auto insurance. We're not quite ready to come public with some of that yet, but we will absolutely be bringing that to the committee when it's ready, and hopefully ask for someone in the committee to carry that legislation for us when it's ready to go. And so, we hope to have some good work for you in January. And we're also looking at trucking insurance rates. That's one that has been brought to us by leaders of both legislators from both chambers. And so we have a potential solution there. As you know, lawsuits are one of the big things driving trucking insurance rates. And so that gets fraught when you get involved in that part of the code, but there are some potential solutions there, again, that not quite ready to bring fully to you yet, but stay tuned.
All right. Representative Hawkins, I think, has a question for you.
Good morning, Weston.
Good morning.
Steve may remember this. He goes back about as far as I do. 25, 30 years ago, the boiler section was reworded and worked on. And at that time, it became an issue with healthcare providers, because our autoclave sort of fell into that definition. So if y'all could watch out for that, so we don't get stuck with that again and have to go through all that, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We'll definitely, when we have some language for you, we'll have you take a look at it.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And as I said, we look forward to working with you as we move into this coming session and dealing with some of these things that you've brought to light. So thank you very much for being here. We also, over the course of the interim, I've had some conversations with representatives from the various aspects of the insurance industry. Bobby Potter is with us. Bobby, if you would come to the microphone. Bobby represents a number of concerns in regard to the insurance world, and he is very knowledgeable about that. And I asked him to come and say a few words to us and share some things with us today. So introduce yourself, Bobby, and tell us who you represent, and then let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you had a concern about.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So at your request, I am here. I'm Bobby Potter. I have represented State Farm Insurance Company here for a long time. And for the last a better part of the decade, have represented the American Council of Life Insurers. That sort of coincides because State Farm is a member of the American Council of Life Insurers, and so would be most any insurance company that you can name, large or small. They have asked me to start the process of one item that is, as I would say, deep in the weeds, but it is. I pose this for your consideration based on the low interest rate environment. And it is a tweak, a small tweak, but a tweak to the standard non-forfeiture law for individual deferred annuities. It could put you to sleep. I've had some conversation with Deputy Commissioner Manners about this. And this briefly is the issue. Generally speaking, the standard non-forfeiture law, which is found in 3328 of the Georgia Code, requires that an individual deferred annuity contract provide the contract holder with a paid up annuity or cash surrender benefits of a minimum amount if the contract holder surrenders the policy. For example, if they stop making payments during that accumulation period. The non-forfeiture amount is the deferred annuities accumulated value minus certain things such as prior withdrawals. And it's based on interest rate minimums regulated by statute. It's kind of the background. So in recent months, actually in this past year or so, market interest rates have fallen so low as to render unrealistic the old statutory rates that insurance companies were required to use in determining the amount to return to contract holders. In that circumstance, the NAIC that monitors all these kinds of things all the time has determined this threatens the availability of annuity products to be offered to consumers in the first place. Part of that is that the current interest rate environment creates these unique challenges based on crediting rates. And in 2020, the yield for the US 5-year and 10-year treasuries have been as low as 0.19% and 0.52%. So the recommended course of action to deal with the availability of these annuities from the NAIC based on their December 9, 2020 recommendation is to amend the model standard non-forfeiture law for individual deferred annuities to reduce that minimum rate, which is in the statute right now at 3328(3)(d), to reduce that minimum from 1% to 0.15%. And that, if it were implemented, would apply to new contracts only and would only be triggered in low interest rate environments. And the interest rate would continue to be controlled by the Department of Insurance and their regulations. So that is the ask, and we'll continue to have conversation with the Department of Insurance about that, but that is the recommendation for the NAIC for states all around the country.
NAIC, National Association of Insurance Commissioners, correct? All right.
Yes, sir.
Have a question, number 9, Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Potter, I wonder if there's been any discussion of, instead of putting a specific rate in the statute, why not just tying it to the market interest rate so that it can rise and flow with the.
So Representative Wilson, I think there is another provision in this code where it does rise and flow. This is simply for the minimum. And somewhere in here, as I was reading this and learning about it, if it goes up, it will go up, and the statute already provides for that. So it can flow up to protect the consumer. This part of that is just addressing the absolute bare floor minimum, because if it goes too low, then insurers can't offer the product because they can't afford to do that. So that the other part that you referenced, it already is tied and can fluctuate.
Okay. Look forward to that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good then. Now I'm sure all of you are clear on that, correct? All right. Just want to be sure, but
This one is in the weeds, and the department knows that too.
well, there is a great deal of what goes on in the insurance world sometimes is a little bit complex, and
It is.
it's good to have people like you who can explain that to us in simple terms.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Sir.
Also, Stacy Freeman, I believe, is with us today. Stacy, I think, passed some information out for your reference. He's also in the insurance world and had spoken with me about something that they were looking into. So if you would please, Stacy, introduce yourself and tell us who you represent and share that with us, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is Stacy Freeman. I represent the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. That's a national property and casualty trade association, approximately 1,000 members, and they write around 70% of the property and casualty market in Georgia. I want to discuss with you briefly a potential legislative matter. It's not in a bill form yet, and it's not carryover legislation, but it has to do with rebates and inducements and some reform to the current laws that we have regarding rebates and inducements. As some of you know, generally speaking, the insurance code prohibits offering anything of value that is not specified in the insurance contract. There are certainly some exceptions, some lower amounts you can offer the food at certain events or something under $100. But generally speaking, the way the code works within the Unfair Trade Practices Act, as well as the rating statutes, it says you can't give anything outside of the contract. And so that would prohibit a situation where, say, the premium is going to be $1,000 for a certain product, and somebody says, well, tell you what, you pay the 1,000 and then I'm going to pay you 250 back. That tends to skew the financial analysis and the rating laws and really gets into the solvency issues of carriers. But as the insurance industry has modernized and some aspects of it are more seen as a partnership between insureds and insurers, the NAIC, National Association of Insurance Commissioners, as well as NCOIL, recently adopted some model legislation to address some exemptions from the rebating statutes and the inducement statutes. And the intent of the legislation is to promote a uniform and consistent way to offer value-added services for certain types of insurance to help speed the market and provide innovation to insurers. So you may have heard of folks offering smoke detectors or fire extinguishers or things like that. Well, there's technology that's on the market and is developing rapidly. For instance, that you plug into your just plug at home in a fixture, and it can detect spikes in electricity or leaks, potential fire hazards. Now, that technology is, of course, a little bit more than $100. So what the legislation, and there's a draft on your desk. It's just the one-page document in the top right corner. It says draft 11-10-2021. And what the intent would be to provide some specific ways that carriers can provide these types of services without having to make a filing. It's not a get out of jail free card. There are certain parameters within the law, and how it would operate, it would say, if you meet certain circumstances that are specified in this legislation, and the insurance department would retain control and authority over these products, then you can offer them without making a filing. I have spoken with the insurance department. Again, this is a draft, so I've spoken with the insurance department. Staff's been very helpful with comments on that, as well as others in the insurance industry. So this is still a work in progress. So I want to make that very clear. But the language, I'll take you to the bill and just walk you quickly through it. The language comes from the NAIC model law updates that were passed earlier this year. And starting at the beginning of the legislation, it's going to say that there would be an exemption from the Unfair Trade Practices Act, as well as the rating statute, for offering of certain value-added products that, one, relate to the service. So for instance, if you provide hands-free device, Bluetooth, something like that, that would obviously relate to some type of auto insurance. It wouldn't relate to homeowners insurance. So one, it's got to relate to the coverage. And second, whatever is offered has to be designed to meet one of the 6 categories under B, basically loss mitigation, loss control type of activities. The paragraphs below, number 2, addresses the cost. It must be reasonable with regard to the premiums. So for instance, in a commercial circumstance, a $1,500 water loss or water leak meter might be reasonable, but in a homeowner situation where a premium's $1,000, that wouldn't be reasonable. Next, the availability of the product must be offered in a documented and objective manner so as not to be unfairly discriminatory. This information would need to be kept on record and would also, of course, be available for review by the insurance department. Paragraph 4 simply addresses a pilot project. If you've got an idea, but you think it may not satisfy some of the criteria, you can offer the product upon notice of the insurance department. They'd have an opportunity to reject that. And then last, on the second page, there's some language that was requested by some other parties with regard to being able to offer non-cash items, meals, donations to charities, and things of that nature. But at the end, again, it's not any type of get out of jail free card. What it would do was say you don't have to make certain filings, but the insurance department does retain full authority and review over these products if they so choose. They could issue rules and regulations, and of course, they still retain full administrative authority to issue fines for any violations of the insurance code. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
I don't understand it. We haven't had any real.
I see none. Another one of those in the weeds things. We
Yes, sir.
will Look forward to getting a clearer understanding of as we get into the session.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate it.
All right. And were there other members from the insurance community that had something they wanted to present? Okay. All right. Well, very good. I saw others there. Also, I know that as is always the case, we have some members who will be bringing particular bills forward. I know Noel Williams had mentioned something to me about something he's working with. So I'll give Noel the opportunity to talk with us. Your number is 18. All right. Very good.
Thank you. Weston, I wanted to thank you for all your hard work. Sometimes we get in the ditch, and on our side, you've been great. And Commissioner King, thank you for letting him help us as much as he does in your office. Has been great service to us. There's something that we see. I've been in the insurance business since '94. And there's something that we wrestle with every year is at renewals and going to the market. For your groups 100 and above, I'm talking about health insurance, for your groups 100 and above or self-funded or partially self-funded, you have claims experience. I don't understand why in the world the insurance industry does not want to give out claims experience to groups under 100 lives. Number one, it will help them with their rating. And number two, it helps the employers see where their money is going. So if we have some large claimants, some shock claimants, prognosis, diagnosis, it's not like they're going to terminate the employee because of that. And that used to be some of the information that the carriers would say, but it would just make it so much more consumer friendly, if you will. And it would be good for the insurance companies as well. So Darlene and I were talking about that some, and I know Matthew would like to discuss this a little further, but something we'd like to look at maybe in the next coming session. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, very good then. Number 23, Darlene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to also share my thanks to the department. I get lots of insurance calls, and your staff has been very prompt and very good at getting responses. And it does make a difference for those who just hear the word insurance and want to close their ears and eyes. So thank you very much for the response that your team has been giving. Thank you.
All right. Well, I know there are other things that will be coming our way as we get into session, but this, as I said, was just a preview of some of the things that have been brought to my attention to this point. So I hope maybe that gives you something to think about as we start moving toward session in January. I want to thank the commissioner, his team, and all of those that were here today and made these presentations. And I believe the commissioner and his staff will be in room 216 here shortly after we finish. And I think they have coffee and donuts. So feel free to go by and avail yourself of that. So thank you all for being here today. I appreciate all that you do for this committee, and we are dismissed.